Why the Good Samaritan would be canceled today. In 2025, we've gotten really good at drawing lines in the sand. We know who's one of us and who's the other. And we have a favorite word for people we don't like. People who step out of line, they're canceled. We call out celebrities, politicians, even our neighbors. But what if I told you that one of history's most beloved heroes, a man so famous for his kindness that we name laws and hospitals after him, would be the first person canceled today? This is the 2,000-year-old story of the Good Samaritan, and it holds up a mirror exposing a deeply uncomfortable truth, not about them, but about us. Ancient story retold. Okay, let's set the scene because the details here are everything. The story is told by Jesus after a religious expert asks him a trick question. And who is my neighbor? Jesus doesn't give a straight answer. Instead, he tells a story. A man is traveling down from Jerusalem to Jericho. This isn't a scenic walk. It's a brutal 17-mile stretch of rocky desert, notorious for ambushes. And right on cue, robbers attack him. They strip him, beat him senseless, and leave him for dead on the side of the road. A little while later, a priest comes down the same road. A pillar of the community, a man of God. He sees the bleeding man, and what does he do? He crosses to the other side and keeps walking. Then a Levite comes by, another respected religious figure who served in the temple. He sees the man, and he too crosses the road and passes by. Then a third man appears, a Samaritan. And right here the original audience would have gone rigid, because a Samaritan wasn't just a stranger, he was the enemy. But the Samaritan, seeing the beaten man, has a shocking reaction. He feels compassion. He doesn't just feel bad for him, he acts. He gets down in the dirt, cleans the man's wounds with his own wine and oil, and bandages them. Then he lifts the man onto his own animal, walks beside him to an inn, and stays with him through the night. The next morning, he gives the innkeeper 2 full days' wages and says, "Take care of him. If it costs more, I'll cover it when I come back." On the surface, it's a sweet story about being nice. But underneath, it's a social grenade. And to get why, you have to understand the world it was told in. Section 2. The unseen rules of the ancient world. To our ears, the priest and the Levite just sound like heartless hypocrites. Maybe they were, but their choice wasn't as simple as it seems. They were living by a complex rulebook, the religious purity laws of their time. In first-century Judaism, ritual purity was everything, especially if you served in the temple. One of the biggest ways to become unclean was to touch a dead body. The man on the road was half dead. If the priest touched him and he died, the priest would become ritually impure, disqualified from his sacred duties. So, in his mind, the priest faced a terrible choice. Do I risk my career, my service to God, and break holy law for a man who's probably going to die anyway? Or do I uphold the rules I've sworn to follow? He chose the law. The Levite likely made the same cold calculation. They weren't just busy, they were protecting their identities by following divinely ordered rules. Now for the Samaritan. The hatred between Jews and Samaritans back then was ancient and bitter. Jews saw Samaritans as half-breeds and heretics who had corrupted their faith. They had their own rival temple on Mount Gerizim, which to the Jews was a profound blasphemy. The tension was so thick that the worst insult you could hurl at a Jew was to call them a Samaritan. They were the ultimate other. So when Jesus makes the Samaritan the hero, he's not picking some random guy. He's deliberately choosing the one person his audience was conditioned to hate. He's picking the person they saw as unclean, heretical, and politically dangerous, and making him the sole example of goodness in the story. Section 3. The modern cancellation. Now let's drop this story into 2025. With social media, 24/7 news, and our polarized world, how would this play out? Let's be real. It would be an absolute dumpster fire for everyone. First, the priest and the Levite. Today, they'd be public figures with a personal brand to protect. Think mega-church pastors or values-driven influencers. The second a bystander's shaky video of them walking past the victim hit the internet, the outrage would be blinding. You can already see the headlines. Faith leaders ignore dying man to protect ritual purity. They'd be slammed for their hypocrisy, their organizations would face boycotts, and their old sermons would be combed for evidence of their awfulness. Their PR team would drop a Notes app apology. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victim. We are deeply committed to our community, but due to safety protocols, we were unable to intervene directly. They'd be canceled for their inaction and for prioritizing their brand over a human being. And honestly, that criticism would be completely fair. But here's the really twisted part. Let's talk about the hero, the Good Samaritan. He would be canceled by everybody. Imagine the story first breaks. Man from rival group saves beaten victim. At first there's praise, but then the think pieces start rolling in from all sides. From the victim's side, the Jewish side, the suspicion would be instant. What's his angle? Is this just performative charity? He's one of them. He's probably just trying to make us look bad or launder his group's reputation. His very identity would be used to invalidate his compassion. People would dig through his old posts to find a problematic take, proving he was never a real ally. The conversation would pivot from his good deed to a debate over whether a Samaritan even had the right to help. Then, from his own community, the Samaritan side, the backlash would be just as savage. Why are you helping the enemy? They hate us. They've oppressed us. And you're out there spending your own money on one of them? You're a traitor. He would be canceled for crossing a sacred tribal line, for showing empathy to the wrong person. And finally, you'd get the perpetually online mob, the digital Pharisees of our time. The critiques would become absurd. Did he get consent before providing medical aid? He's not a licensed paramedic. Using wine on a wound isn't best practice. He's spreading medical misinformation. Others would critique the power dynamics. By paying for his care, isn't he just creating a problematic savior narrative? The simple, costly act of compassion would be dissected, deconstructed, and ultimately condemned. The Samaritan would be canceled for being a traitor, a performative ally, and for violating the unwritten purity laws of modern social justice. He broke the rules, helped the wrong person, and his kindness made everyone uncomfortable. He'd be labeled naive, problematic, and canceled. Section 4. The uncomfortable truth. And here's the kicker. That was the entire point. Jesus told this story to be disruptive. He wasn't giving his audience a hero they could all comfortably cheer for. He chose a protagonist who would shatter their tidy categories of good guy and bad guy. He forced them to see the face of a true neighbor in the person they were taught to despise. The parable isn't a gentle nudge to be nice. It's a radical indictment of our own biases. It shows how we use rules, whether religious, political, or social, to justify walking past suffering. The priest and Levite use their ancient purity laws. We use our modern ones. We ask, is this person on my political team? Are they problematic? What will helping them cost my reputation in my tribe? The story reveals that true compassion is almost always inconvenient and often impure. It doesn't respect our political teams or social labels. It's disruptive by nature. It's kneeling in the dirt to help a bleeding enemy when every rule and every voice in your head is screaming at you to walk away. The point of the Good Samaritan isn't that he was good in a way everyone could applaud. The point is that he did what was right, even if it made him look bad to everyone else. The story isn't about them back then. It forces us to look in the mirror right now. It makes us ask, who are our Samaritans today? Who are the people our tribe has labeled as the enemy, as unclean, as the other? And more importantly, are we willing to be the Samaritan? Are we willing to risk getting our hands dirty, breaking our own social purity codes, and maybe even getting canceled by our own side for helping the wrong person? The parable of the Good Samaritan is not a comforting bedtime story. It's a challenge, and 2,000 years later, it's one of the most radical and relevant questions we can ask ourselves. What biblical passage or story looks completely different to you in a modern context? Let me know in the comments.